Good morning, everyone, and here we are. This is going to be the seventh part of this production. It'll be putting the 3D store that we've created into WalkTheWeb and make all the parts work, such as the doors. So we're going to show you all the little extras and things you can do once you get there. But to begin, what we'll do is we're actually going to take the 3D store that we've created, and there's a little bit of a process that we do. So if you've I have modified it a couple little more times, played around with some of the textures and rescaled some of the textures, and tweaked it here and there, changed a couple of the textures on some of the walls, made sure that the some of the, let's see, faces of the different parts were actually facing the wrong direction, so I flipped the normals to make sure they're all going the right direction. So I did a walkthrough on that stuff before, since the last part. So now we have the building ready to go. So let me show that to you here. Okay, so this is the building. We've got it ready. We've played around with our textures. We've set up the different pieces. As you can see from this design, I changed some of the textures so that around the bottom here it has a little bit of a little extra features. Made sure that the seams of the textures kind of lined up a little bit better, so I made some adjustments there. Yeah, a couple of the pieces on the top were white, and I decided to make them dark brown because it didn't look right in the scene, so I played around with them and got them all in the right place and everything else. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I even move on past this, just getting started here, is I'm going to select the doors. And one of the things we had done just so that we could walk through the doors is we turned off check collisions. So I want to make sure that I don't forget to do that. So I'm going to turn the collisions on in the doorways so that now they're solid objects and people can't just walk through the door. But when we get done, we're going to make them open anyway. So, okay, now the first part of this is I'm going to make a backup copy of this, by the way. So let me do that real quick. I'm just going to do a save as, make it simple. But the reason I do this is I'm going to save a copy before I divide it. But then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to divide it into logical groups of how I'm going to implement it into my own site. So let me reopen this, the original file, instead of the copy. Okay, that should do it pretty good. Okay, so now what we have is the first thing you got to think about is what do you want to load and when. If you had a real complex thing on the inside of the building or a lot of, we did some pretty straightforward walls and textures and stuff, so that's not too bad. But what you could actually do is you could come in here and the idea behind it is this. We want to separate the various pieces. Like right now we have a right door, a left door, and then we have the building. If we wanted to load the inside of the building so that all those faces and stuff do not have to load until you're close, then all we would do is come in here, edit the building. I'm gonna hide the bottom of this so that we can kind of see the inside walls. And you could actually go through here and go, okay, these up here especially are not going to be really seen from a distance. So you could take every one of these little pieces in here. And remember, this is just the inside walls. This isn't even the outside walls. This is just what shows on the inside. So if I take these, notice I'm not taking the inside of around the windows and stuff so that if you look into a window, you see a wall on the other side. It's not so obvious that it's being gutted, you could say. And if you're close enough to see from inside, then you're going to be able to look up and these will already be loaded. So the idea is still conceptually, we want to pull the things that are going to be clearly inside the building, which includes these ceiling panels. And we'll get all these here. And the reason is we don't need to load them until we need to load them. I know that's a kind of redundant sentence, but the idea is this. Unless you're standing right there and you're going to walk inside, the inside pieces don't need to be loaded. So why not save all those faces and edges and vertices so that they don't load until you're actually going to be inside the building. So that's just a concept type thing, but I'm going to go ahead and grab a number of these also. I'm not going to get too low. I'm trying not to grab the lower floor of this. You know, it's basically the ceiling and the upper sections of the walls, just so that there is a bit of a wall. And I'll show you why later on as we import this. Okay, so I've highlighted all these various pieces, and notice none of them are from the outside of the building. Making sure of that. There's a seam that hits the outside of the building, but it's not actually affecting any of the outside of the building. These are all interior walls. Okay, so now that I've grabbed those all, I'm going to, well, actually I need to, for some reason my keys aren't staying on when I turn them on. So I'll turn it back on here. I may have not saved it that way, so I'm not blaming them. It's a cool thing, but now you can see what I'm clicking. Okay, so first thing, mesh, and we have separate by selection. What we did was we now have a separate section that we can call building inside. And feel free to name these anything you want. It's not as critical as some of the other stuff. Use names that I tend not to use spaces. These names actually get shown as part of the name of the mesh that you're loading. So IDs can't have spaces and certain things. So when I bring them in, I translate some of the names and call it whatever it needs to be when it comes in. But I'd still try to name them, you know, like if I do it this way, I know right door, left door, building inside, and building are all going to be the names of the things because there's no conversion when it doesn't have spaces or, you know, special characters or anything. That's the names of the actual meshes in the scene. Okay, now that I've separated those into the various pieces, you know what, I'm gonna, since I did that piece, I'm gonna save as, I'm gonna overwrite this full one again, just so that I've got it with the separation that I just did. Okay, and let me file, see it open the full one now, so I'm gonna jump back to the one we're working on, which is the exact same thing, so if obviously it doesn't take long for it to reload. Okay, now the trick is this. If I say File, Save As, now I want to save this as Building, which will be the outer building, just like we have it here. Save As, and now I'm going to take and I'm going to delete the items that are not part of that mold. Notice we still have the shell, we still have it loading. It does not have the inside of the top half of the building in there, and we do not have the doors on it. So if I say save, I'm just going to make sure that we have check. We can receive shadows and we can also cast shadows. That's all fine for this piece. And now File, Export as Babylon. And this one is, notice it's got the building name on it. I double check that when I create these. Okay, so that one's in there. And File, Save. Doesn't take very long because it's, you know, we're not processing a bunch of animations or anything like that. Okay, File, Recent. I'm going to go back to the main building. And File, here we go again, Save As. And this one is going to be Building Inside, just like I had the name up here, just for consistency. You can name it whatever you want, but in my case, I just try to make it as consistent as possible in case I have to look up one of these and do some new changes to it later on. So Save As, and now this one, we're going to remove the right door, the left door, and the building itself, and now we have just the building inside. Another thing that we may have to do, object, just to make sure, I believe it's all set, but all transformations, make sure they're all applied. And now this is building inside. So we're going to take this, save it, and export as Babylon. Keeps opening on my other screen. But building inside, and we're going to create that piece. Okay, and finally, save. We're going to go back to our regular building again. And we're going to save as. So by the time I'm done, I'm going to have 4 pieces of this one building. And this one's going to be left door. And once again, we have on the left door one, we're going to take out the right door. We'll take out the building inside and the outer building. So now all we have is the left door. And if you'll notice that apply, well, actually, it's already applied. You can tell it's 111 for those and 0 for all these. So we know we applied the transformation. We did double check, and we have cast shadows, receive shadows, and check collisions. So that's all good. And file save, file export as Babylon. And we have left door. Do that. File save. And last one. Go back to the here. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Just separating a building and going to show everybody how to bring it into WalkTheWeb. So doing some cool stuff. File save as. How's it going for you today? This is the right door. So save as that, and now take out the left door, the building inside, and the building. Okay, we're good with the transformations, we're good with the collisions and everything on that. And file save, file export, and here we go with this. Right door, do that, file save. Okay, and now that we have those 4 pieces, what we're actually going to do is we'll start uploading them to WalkTheWeb. So we go into WalkTheWeb, we basically click on the little toolbar which takes us to the admin menu. If this is on your own site, design is going good. Design's going really good, and we're actually created the building already with Babylon or Blender, sorry, and now we're going to bring it into our site. So the first thing I want to do is 3D buildings. Actually, we're not selecting a building. I'm going to create a new building, which one of the things we have here is a new building from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and then tell it to open my 3D building in the editor. And then once you get that open, it gives you this little section, and you can edit the 3D building. Well, actually, let me do options and settings, building information. And first thing I want to do is rename it to be something really friendly. So I'm going to say Bay, or actually display window 3D store. Yeah, that's easy enough. And down here, you can do tags or whatever. It's all fine. A building description. I'm just going to put the same thing for now. And in alt tag, I'm going to say 3D store, just so it's kind of consistent with some of the other things I've created. And save those settings. Next, in here, I'm going to right click and get rid of the foundation. There it goes. And once I'm got the foundation, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and say delete the floor. That's just to give you an idea. If you were building a building from scratch, you can actually center it on 0, 0, 0, and it kind of gives you an idea of where to build. But in our case, we already have a building that we're going to be using. So I'm going to go into the media library, 3D models, and the first thing I'm going to do is upload those pieces that we just created. So for starters, let's see, Blender, I have it under building. And then I have it under storefront feature. Okay, in here, the first thing I want to do is actually catch the Babylon file for the various parts. So I have the building Babylon file, and I'm going to open that, and it's going to create the first one right here. Then I just click edit, and I can upload the rest of the files that go along with this. Now, I know that the outside of the building has pretty much all of the graphics, so I'm going to get quite a bit of these. It doesn't have the fabric on the outside of the building. Yes, it does. We can see the inside of the walls on the floor level. You can grab about, I think it's 25 files at a time. I'm probably going to change that on my server so that you can do more. But at this moment, I'm going to separate and grab little chunks of it at a time. I want to set it, I'll probably set it to be about 100 next time so that we don't have to sit there and pick and choose and do multiple uploads. But it grabs the files and it will put them all in place here. As long as I didn't break it. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Love the design of the building. And I'll be home in a couple hours. That's cool. That's cool. I'll be on for a little while. And if you don't find me here, you can always find me on Discord. Everybody's welcome there. Yeah, and we're constantly building. We're working almost every day. And so if you don't see me on Twitch, you can always catch me on Discord. So, okay, let's see. So that's those files. Let's get some more files here. Okay, we know we have the planks. It's all good. Okay, and then the building. Notice we have the manifest. I tend to put my Blender files here too, so that if anything ever happens, I've got them on the server and I can still work with them and stuff. So I tend to keep all of the Blender files with mine. It doesn't use them when you're actually going on the site. So like when it loads it and everything else, if you put the Babylon and the Babylon manifest files, those are the only two it needs to actually load. And then you can also do the textures that you need. You put them all in there too. So as long as you're doing that, you caught everything you need. But like I said, since I'm allowing people to download the stuff that I create and everything else, I want to make sure that if you download it and put it on your WalkTheWeb server, then you also have the Blender files, and I just give them out so that you can create your own things and do whatever you need to from there. So from here, we have the tiles. Of course, we have the couple different wood patterns. And that should catch all those pieces. I'm going to go ahead and upload all 4 of these pieces that we created first, and then I'm going to go back through and then I'll add them to the scene and show you how we create the building in there. Okay, so that takes care of that one. Click close. Now I can tell it upload primary again. And in this one, storefront feature, Babylon inside. Now you're creating the Babylon file. That's because I used the Babylon export tool from Blender. If you don't have that, you can always download it and add it, and it's a very simple tool, but it allows you to set those things like the check collisions and stuff so that it already is applied by the time it imports it. But otherwise, this does use object file, so OBJ, GLTF, and GLB files natively in Babylon. So it's pretty cool that it does use those. I tend to use these because, like I said, I can check the, I can do all the things like my brain, like I said, the check collisions and set shadowing and stuff to turn them off and on from here. So do what you need to on that, not an issue. We know we have fabric in this one. We have painted plaster. We have, actually we probably don't have painted plaster. Okay, that's when I check this. If I bring open the inside, this one, using this object right here, see that's the inside of the building right there. If I go to this, set it into edit mode, and first things first, I can actually know that there's no floor and remove that. Oh, to remove it, you go back out of that mode, and you take that and you remove it. I can go inside walls, select, and notice it highlighted some, so I know those are in use. Column, select, and I use that. Foundation, select. I did not use that because nothing's selecting. Oh, and the other thing you can do is you can do this. If you change it to wireframe, then you don't have to worry because you can see through things. So foundation isn't in use. If I switch back to here, I can click delete, red roof, and say select. That's not in use. And I'm kind of trimming out some of these items here. Outer walls. And of course I'm going to select that and see no outer walls are being used. And I can basically knock out a lot. See, I use red roof, but it's a second version and that's where it's at. So I do have that one in use. Yellow panes. Oh, let's click away from everything and select. Yellow panes are there, or window panes, I mean. Transparent, we know we have that. It's on the glass. And windows, actually. Transparent is something else. Transparent, I use it for steps and stuff like that so that you can actually step up on an object and it won't, it puts a ramp over the steps just to make it very smooth. I have designed the avatars where it actually sends a ray forward and it looks to see if there's a step in front of you, and it modifies gravity so that when you hit it, you'll bounce upward and you actually go up the stairs. So we do have a method to walk upstairs and it does work to a degree. With that said, I wanted it to be smoother and foolproof, so I added transparent ramps in certain places just to make sure it's not an issue. Obviously we have windows here. Actually we don't. Windows were on the outside of the building, not the inside. So select that, and as you can see, there are no windows in this piece, so I can take that out. And finally, bricks, select. Nope, there were no bricks in this piece. These bricks are all on the outside of the building too. Now I've narrowed it down to basically 4 textures that are used on this surface, and material preview shows that everything is still there the way it should be. Okay, so we're happy. And I'm going to export that again just so that we get the latest with any modifications I just made. That way it doesn't load any more textures than what it needs. The outside of the building pretty much had all the textures involved in it one way or another, so I wasn't too concerned on that one. But this one we can go with just the ones we need. So now what we have is red roof, columns, and inside walls. And columns, if you remember from our work before, columns use, it's wood 51. Inside walls use fabric, which we know. And then red roof uses wood floor 04. Okay, so that'll catch those things. Window panes, actually, one more. This one is window panes is planks 10. Okay, so those are the textures that are in use by this thing. I can leave it open so we can double check them again. But if I come in here, and now I know bricks aren't in use. I want fabric. Painted plaster isn't in use. Planks 10. Did I say planks 10? Short-term memory. Planks, oops. This is planks 10, yes. Okay, so I want planks 10. I don't need rocks. I'm going to, by the way, I'm going to upload the Babylon file. Notice that when I upload that, it will replace the current file, and I won't have to worry about it. I'm going to do that handful of files first. Like I said, I'll make it where it does all of them at once later on, where we can do up to 100 files. That'll make it simpler on everybody. See, by using the product all the time, I come up with my own ideas of what I need to do and what I need to change. Another little note for myself, what I'm going to do is anytime I think of something, I go ahead and put it in here. This one will go under admin, continuity, and flow, and I'm going to create a little note that says add loading on file upload buttons. What that'll, by doing that, you'll be able to see that it's still in process loading instead of waiting for it and seeing if it you know, refreshes the list or something. I'm going to change these words to loading and make them change back when it's done with the process. So I just made a note for myself to catch that later on, and I can obviously take care of that. So we need wood 51 and we need wood floor 04. And that should take care of the pieces that are part of this one. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, and there we go. Those files are uploaded. So next is I need to go through the door. So let's put this back on this. I'm going to say save it and open recent. I'm going to pick the left door first. It doesn't matter. They got the same. They have the same textures on them. We have the columns, which is going to be used on the wood out here. We have, which by the way, columns is, just so we remember that, it is wood 51. Window panes are planks 10. And then windows, which have no texture added onto them. So now that I know that, we can upload a primary file. Go to left door Babylon file, open, edit. And you can do these one at a time. I just chose to upload all 4 of these objects at once, just so that we have them ready, and then we're just kind of doing the same process over and over again afterwards. So I want planks 10, I want the left door extra files, and I want the wood 51, and upload. Since I built them all in the same folder, all my textures for all the parts of this building are all in the root of the folder. So kind of makes it easy. It's a pick list. Okay, I have all that in place, and now I'm going to notice I'm not doing any animations here. We've got another process that will set that up for us. If the original thing that you're importing from Babylon or from Blender has animations in them, all you have to do is say add animation, name it anything you want. It's a JavaScript function name, so no spaces. JavaScript event you can put on load, and then you can say leave this blank if there's no particular mesh that you're telling it to run, which would be just, hey, straight out run the animation that's in the file. And then you can put your start and end frame. If you click on loop, it'll continuously play. So like if I had a ceiling fan in here, I could tell it, give it a name, tell it on load, and I could say start and end frame, and basically it would automatically and loop, and it would automatically run the ceiling fan. If you go advanced options, there are options to add a sound to it. You can also add a speed ratio, so you could speed it up or slow it down if you need to. So that's all some extra things you have. You click save, and the animation will automatically load when the object loads. So it's that simple to add the animations that come from Blender. But in this case, opening the door is not triggered by a load or anything like that. It's actually triggered by the avatar walking into that section coming up to the door. So we're going to get to that in just a minute. Let me get the last part of this, the right door. Okay, so we have left door. Now we're going to the right door Babylon file. And I'm going to edit that, upload the files. See, this is quick. It's easy. It's painless. There are no fabrics, no plaster. We've got the plank. We have the right door additional files. And we have the wood 51. It's like Area 51, right? No. Okay, and once we get those couple pieces in place here, the next thing I'm doing, I know I could move that. Since we're doing more of this in here, let me move my, there we go. Now I move my ugly mode to the bottom right side instead of the bottom left where I'm blocking half the menu options. So, okay, we have these in our 3D models. Notice if I go to the 3D models, we have the 4 pieces that we need. By the way, notice how I've been doing this a while and creating things, and my list over here has gotten really long. I created this little name filter in here. If you start to type storefront, for example, it will automatically limit down the list to show you just the ones you type. And it does change as you go. So you can type in, whatever you want to type in. You can type in the different pieces and get trim down the list so that you can find things easier. So just a little helpful piece. We did put that in place. Like I said, I'm a user of my own product. So the more I use it, the more I want shortcuts to make it easier and faster. And that's the more I code in here and put them in here. So we have WalkTheWeb downloads and gives you all these items. We just basically, well, actually we don't have that. We have 3D models, that's where it was, and it has the options. Okay, so now, if I come in here and I go to 3D buildings, remember we created a new 3D building and we haven't put anything in it yet. So I'm gonna edit the 3D building. Now, building blocks, by the way, are like if I needed to put just a random cube or a sphere or, a cylinder or something into my scene, into my building. In this case, we've already designed it in Blender, so I'm going to go to Web Object and then pick Blender or Babylon file. Now that I've picked that, all I have to do is come over here, click Select 3D Object, and it brings back up that 3D models list again. If you don't have it filtered, you can type in something here and make it filtered. So the first thing I'm going to add is I'm going to say Select on the building, and guess what? We now have the building. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it at 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to make sure it's not rotated. That will make sure that everything is, now notice, see the top half of this. If I'm inside the building, notice the top half is all missing. That was what we were doing with the various items. We were taking them and moving them out. By the way, if your avatar, you don't have to use your avatar in this viewer. If you click down here to avatar camera, it releases the avatar from the camera, and now you can move it around and see in weird, strange angles and check things from above and see whatever you're doing and move things around. It's just an option, and if you click it again, it brings you back to your avatar, to controlling your avatar. Okay, so now that I've done that, see, we've got the building. Everything looks pretty good in here. It's on 0, 0, 0, so I'm going to do two things. Show advanced, and the first thing is I want to tell it how far do I want to see this. I want it to be in the extreme zone, which means that at the largest distance away, this part of the building gets loaded. This is a key to why we separated the inside of the building from the outside. Okay, so if I save the object, okay, so now we have that piece of the building in place. Now, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to do this again. So we have this cool building. I'm going to say Add Web Object, Babylon File, and select here, and I'm going to choose the inside of the building. And when I put that on, notice it's above me already. If I put that on 0, 0, 0, because that's what the building was designed around, was a 0, 0, 0 point. So everything evolves around that. So if I set it all to 0, 0, 0, which, by the way, was my transformed, when I applied all transformations, it becomes zeroed out. Well, that's why it's all zeroed out in this scene. And then this one, in the advanced options, I'm going to put high. I'm not going to put extreme. There's the extreme, which means see the building from the outside and know there's something there to go check it out. Then there's high, which is I'm on the outside, but I'm close enough. I want it to load. And then there's near, which is I'm about ready to walk in the building or very close to it, very, very close to it, and I want the other parts to show. So notice this one I'm going to put on high so that it loads before you're right next to the building. Okay. Now, just to demonstrate that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to reload this just so that, we check everything, make sure it all loaded properly and stuff. I'll probably be stuck inside the building. No. Okay, I'm in front of it. That's a good sign. I wasn't sure where my avatar was set. I'll show you how to set your avatar here in a minute too. Okay, so our building loaded, and I want to show you something. If you can get in just the right position, you can see that the inside of the building is loaded. I'm going to walk back a ways. In fact, notice this zones button. This zones button tells me where the zones are, and you can see that right here, the inside of the building's loaded, the inside is not loaded. If you look very carefully right around here through that top window, you can see blue sky behind it, which means that the inside of the building is not loaded. The second I walk inside this cube, look at it loaded that other piece. That was the whole reason why we separated this into two separate parts. We wanted to make sure that if it needed to, it could load this only when you're closer. But notice, we're really close by the time it loads. So we really don't need it loading from quite a distance. It works perfectly fine loading from this distance. Okay, there we go. We've got that all in good place. So then, next part is, let's edit the building, add web object, and we're going to put in the left door. And same thing, you don't have to worry about lining up doors or anything because we did all that in Blender. All we have to do is put it on 0, 0, 0, and notice the door is now in place. Now this particular one, I'm going to do this high also because you do see this from the outside of the building. If it's something that you only see when you're inside the building, I might put it on normal, which would be low. And note, you can create your own custom load zones and tell it. So like if you created a 2-story building and you don't want to load the upstairs until you go upstairs, then you can actually create a load zone that specifically ties in that part and tells it when to load that. Okay, so keep that in mind. But here we're going to go high so that it will load from the outside. And then I'm going to show you a demo here afterwards what that does. And you can also make these extreme if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be, but I'm going to put the right door on also. It doesn't have to be the high zone. You can put it on the extreme zone so that the doors are seen from quite a distance. I tend to try to minimize what gets shown at any one distance so that you have more processing power for everybody to load other things also. So I try to minimize the footprint while showing off a pretty good place. Notice this building looks cool. And if I walk back to here, just, keeping an eye on different things here. And see, the doors didn't disappear. Some of them, when you first change the action zone that it's in, won't load until the next time you refresh it. That's something I need to change, but right now I didn't bother changing it in the code yet. That's a little detail. In fact, I could. Yeah, I'll worry about that one later. That's like icing on the cake, right? Okay, so notice I'm going to show the action zones. Action zones are on, so you can see them. And when I back up, that's the near one. So nothing changed in the near one because we didn't have anything in the near one yet. But when I go outside this one, notice the doors disappeared. But did you really? I mean, you can notice them. They are gone. But at this distance, you can see there's a building there, and you're like, hey, that's pretty cool. And you can see it from all angles and everything else. And then as you're walking closer, now the doors are on there before you get there. So did it really matter? So like I said, I balance out how much I want to show and just keeping an idea of the amount of meshes I'm loading at any one time and all the faces and everything else, trying to keep the processing power down to a minimum so that everything always loads fast and loads smooth. Now, if I have a real complex design and you catch any kind of lag, notice how I can walk from here, I can go from here to here and see how it just basically loads and I didn't get any lag in my avatar movement. If I go from here and if I'm walking, notice no lag at all loading that building. If you get any lag at all, then what I recommend is going back to your Blender object and separate out some more things. Because you can come in here and you can actually say, we're going to go with, like, let's see, let me go with the outside of the building. There it is, building. You can make it in more than one piece. What happens is for every cycle of the frames of loading, it tries to load a mesh or, one or two meshes or something. When you do something with Blender, it tries to load the whole mesh at once. So if you create multiple files, let's say this was a really big piece, this is really complicated and has some huge textures on it or something else, and it caused a lag. Then what I would do is I would, just like we separated the inside of the building, I would separate some of the outside of the building. But when you load them into here as separate pieces again, you can set more than one of them to be the different extreme zones. So you can have multiple things in the extreme zone. When you walk through, it will load one part, then the other part back to back, and it puts them in there without the lag. So anytime you have something that's too demanding to load and it causes a lag, just separate it into more pieces. and you'll do just fine. Notice that was the other thing. When I have anything in here, if I right click on it, it will load that object into, let me make sure I'm selecting it, there we go. It will load, and you can see, I need to make that text box a little wider, but there's our building Babylon file that we loaded. It's grabbed it, and now I can edit where the position is, the scaling, rotation, everything else. So you can adjust things very easily. You can rotate it in here if you needed to. If you built it and it turned out to be too small and you need to make it for scale so the guy can walk through the door, then all you have to do is bump up the scale. Notice, look, we can scale this building to a bigger building if you needed to. Now it's this high. You can do it, for all directions and everything too. So basically, you can make the building fit the scene in the proper scale. I'm personally going to leave them on a 1-to-1 scale because I actually did build it with the proper scale in mind. But notice how easy it is to convert that to a separate scale. Okay, and when you're all done messing around with that, you just click Save, and it's in place in that scale. Okay, so we've already put the different doors on here, but notice they do not run. We cannot open any of the doors. When you walk up here, see, I'm going to start with the left door, and when I walk up here, notice I can't get through the door. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to work with Edit Action Zones, and I know I have a swinging door. The first thing I'm going to do is notice it created there's two things that I want to point out here. The first thing is there is a action zone, which is the kind of a square cube piece here that is surrounding where we're at, and then we have a pole. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the position of this, and I'm going to get it where everything looks about right, which means get the ground level close to the ground level. You can run from, this ground level so that it starts to open before you even go up the stairs, or you can go from inside, whatever you want to do. I'm going to make the door swing outward, okay? And so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to kind of center the position here. I'm purposely keeping it forward more than inside, because when you're on the outside and the door is going to open towards you, you need more space for, as you walk into the zone, it starts to open so that you can get inside. When you are inside and you're going to open a door that goes forward, if you want to feel like the avatar practically pushed the door open, then make a smaller part of the zone on the inside. Then you'll end up with best of both worlds, and you'll actually get a nice, let me see, if I'm going to go to a round number. I'm going to go to 50 right now. I'm going to set this at, notice how it's kind of going around the steps. I don't want it to, if I walk in this display area up here, I don't want it to open the door every time I walk up here. So I'm trying not to open it from two different areas for too much. I could make it go a little farther outward, and the reason would be if you walk up, if you jumped on this edge of the step, you should be able to have the door open for you. So I am going to make it where it catches it a little bit more from that side. So I'll make it 50, 40, and then 10. You can also make the door, the zone taller. What I wanted to point out is it is the base of the avatar. On the avatar itself, there's this little cube that's hidden right as a marker of where the avatar is located on the scene at any one time. That little cube that's invisible right now is right there between his shoes. When he walks, it is the position of where he stands. So as he goes up the steps, it goes up the steps with him. When that goes into this zone, that's when it triggers it. So if I made a zone that was only 5 clicks high or whatever, 5 units high, it would still open that door for me. But I tend to open it all the way bigger just because I'm capturing everything around that door. But I just wanted to make you aware that technically it's the lower part of him that actually works the door. Now, with that said, there's position and there's rotation, and I'm trying to get this somewhat close to where I want it. If you click on advanced, then what you'll see is there's two things. One is the axle position for the zone, you can turn that off once you get it in a rough idea, and now you can control the axle of where the door is going to be hinged and the actual zone that triggers it. So what we're going to do is now the position is going to be the same for the moment, but notice I can make this zone, for example, come out farther towards me. Okay, I'm going to go to about the bottom of the steps so that it starts opening by the time you get there. And then I'm going to, well, you know what? I could go 50 just for round numbers. I tend to like round numbers. And this one, I'm going to go to 30. So it's 50, 40, 50, 30. And those are easy numbers to remember. And then I'm going to make it a little bit taller just because it's steps and everything else. It reminds me where the zones are. They're easy to see and everything. And then the zone position, since I made that 30, I'm going to make this 15 just so that the base of it's on the base of the ground. And I'm going to do the same thing for the pole, the rotation. Actually, that's fine where it's at. Okay, now that I have that piece in place for when I want it to open, now there's two pieces left. First, I need to put the hinge where I need it to be. I kept this little box around it because it is kind of a telltale of where you're working from. So as I can move over this way, notice that I separated from my avatar. Notice it's before the door, so it's not even to the door yet. And I'm going to move it. Now we're moving just, since we did that checkbox, I'm moving just this. So if I move the position, for example, it's not in the ground, by the way. So there it is. Notice I'm in the wall now. The box is still there, which tells me I'm not all the way through the wall. And if you want, since I turned off the avatar camera, I can actually come inside. I can see that the other half of the box is here. I can't see the axle, which means that it is in the middle of there. Notice how far this is. I may want to shorten this so that it doesn't start opening the door till you're closer. And that adjustment is position Z and, oops, went the wrong way. We're going to make that, I just like when it opens the door as you get to it and makes it look more like you're closing the door as you leave. So notice I've got it at 60 now, 60-40, there we go. And that's about there. Notice I didn't make it right on the crack of the door here. I want it to hinge about here. The reason, I can move it over, you can fine tune that movement right when you positioned it here. You also have the X position, which is this way. And when you move that over, you can get it to go just a little bit over if you need to. I like to rotate it on a point here so that this wall doesn't show through the door when it opens, especially if I open past 90 degrees. Speaking of which, here's a 90-degree opening. I kind of like it to go 110. It's an extra 20 degrees past that point. You know what? Actually, I'm going to move the hinge over to the other side of the door. I want it to open that way so that if you jump up on the edge, you're not getting beat by the door. So I'm going to open up next to the edge of the building, which will keep it clear. So let's move the pole position over. Instead of 40, we're going to move it. Oops, I went one too far. Let's go back here. And I'm moving it from this side. So now we have 45, 30. Okay. I'm going to show you a trick with that in a minute. I'm going to actually snapshot that so I remember my settings. Okay, there's one more piece here that's very, very important. We're going to take and say, first of all, pick shape to add. If I click on that, it goes to cancel shape. Then I can click on, for example, this door. And once I've clicked on the door, it says Babylon file, so it knows I've clicked on the door. What happens if I get into the avatar now, and if I walk into this, notice the door opened. Yay, we got a door that opens. But also notice it went the wrong direction. It opened inward, not outward. To change that, all you have to do is take the Z or the X version and change that by 180 degrees. By flipping over the axle rotation, you're actually reversing the door. Because let's say this is the thumbnail is going to go this direction. When you flip it upside down, it's going this way. So by flipping the axle 180 degrees, now when you walk inside it, well, wait a minute. It doesn't catch that right away sometimes. Let's see. Axle zone rotation. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the zone rotation. I don't need to rotate the zone. I need to rotate the post, which is right here. So if I take this and go 180 on the rotation of Z, now when I walk in here, it comes outward. See, just like we expect. Door is animated. Oh, and there is also a rotation speed. I set it at 10. It works pretty good. It seems to be natural. If you want, you can mess around with that and try going faster or slower. But that's just to let you know. You may have to refresh the page after you've changed that for it to take effect. I don't believe I have that hot swapped on there like I did the rotation and everything else we did. Okay, so now once I've put all those pieces in there and I've told it to attach the axle zone part, which happens to be the door, the next thing I want to show you before we leave here is you also have the zone of when to load this. Now the load zone can be loaded either with the other piece, so like the door, or you can load it beforehand like in the extreme zone. I tend to do it with because you don't need it loaded if the door's not loaded. So I load it when loads this distance. It's going to load it in the high. The load zone will be loaded before the door's added to the scene because it has all the extra calculations of where to place it and everything. Okay, so then when I say save, notice it turns off my zone, but guess what? We walk up to the door and now it opens and we can walk right in. So that's how you add a door. Yay! And then when you kind of walk up, notice that's something I wanted to show you. When you come up from an angle here, it opens as you approach, kind of being inviting, letting you come in. So great deal. You got the door. It's all good. And it closes behind you as you come in. Now, if I come from the inside, notice how much closer I am before the door starts to open. You get the feel that you kind of push the door open to leave. So that's why I tend to put them with a shorter load zone on the inside than on the outside. Okay, now we're going to repeat that same process for the right side over here. And we're going to say, let me get over here a little bit. First thing I'm going to do, this is the little trick I learned. Okay, if I come over here, I can say swinging door and load that up. Oh, by the way, I like to say left swinging door. Change the name so that you can tell between your left and your right door. So I changed that to left swinging door. And the other thing I like to do is, now show that again, there we go, is if I come in here and put this in just about the right place, if I put it just like that, Alt print screen, I can actually capture a picture of the screen, and it's going to be my quick reminder of what things I do. I paste that into Paint, and now guess what? I have my settings so I can repeat them. I'm going to put that on that edge of the screen real quick, and I'm going to save that because I did change the name of it. Okay, edit action zones, and notice there's our left swinging door. We're going to create a right just by saying swinging door. Now I'm going to shrink this screen just a touch here because I want to see those numbers I just put there. Like I said, it's a little trick. Now I don't have to do so much on this. I know that I made it 110. I know that the rotation speed was the same. Position Z, so we're going to go with 45. And it takes position as soon as you release it. So when I say position 45 and then I release it to click the next object, that's when it takes effect. This one's 30, but I'm going to say negative 30 because we're on the right side now instead of the left side of the building. And that kind of centers that. Position this will be 15. Rotation here. This one is on the opposite side, so chances are I'm not going to have to rotate the direction of rotation. So we'll check that out first, and then we'll decide if we need it after the fact. And for some reason, there we go. For some reason, it doesn't show the thing properly when it first comes on. I'm going to uncheck that box. And now down in this bottom half, we have 60. Oops, not 4,000, 60. And 60 and 40. And position is 15. And then I believe I made it 50 by 30. Let's check the size, see how it looks. Yep, right at the edge of the building. That looked about right. Those are the only two I had to memorize. And I made it 30 high, which brings it up to the full height of where we're looking at. Notice it's sitting right on the ground texture, which is fine. You can move it a little touch below that if you don't want to see the, flashing when you move, two textures on the same surface. So that's all it takes to get those in place. And then the final part here is we have it high in the same zone as the door. And we're going to pick the shape, click on the door, which now has Babylon file. And you can text this just by walking in. And notice it opened the right direction. And we didn't swing it too far because it didn't hit this post in here. So we actually opened it just to the right amount. If it hit this, I might back off the rotation distance. Notice it rotated the right direction, so we didn't have to do the 180 flip on the door. And, I didn't say, see, this is my habit. I got to say right for the right swinging door, just so we've labeled it properly. And save action zone. And now we have a building. It is brought into here, and we can actually walk around in the building, and it's fully loaded and ready to go. Now, that would be great right there. That right there shows you how to bring something in from Babylon, from Blender, put it into Babylon, Babylon files export, and then bringing them into WalkTheWeb and making it a thing that you can use. Now that you have it as a building, you can actually share it. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. For example, I can come over here and I can say, when somebody starts this scene, if they're in front of my building, I want this location to be right here. So let's go over options and settings. One of the things you can do is set the starting position. Use current position. Now that I've done that, anytime somebody goes back to this building, they will automatically be, hey Eva, how you doing? Hey, catch my stream. Yeah, I know, I finally streamed, you should say. I know, you're being polite. But thank you. Thank you for coming in. So basically notice it started in that general area of where I did it. Keep in mind the starting position is a kind of a 10 by 10 leadway. So give it a little bit of space around where your avatar starts, because I didn't want to load two avatars perfectly top over the top of each other. So by doing this, I do a little random location based on the same facing direction and everything else. But okay, I got to remember how to do that. I don't know how to set the moderator again. I'll get you covered. I just got to look it up real quick. So give me a minute. But here we go. So this is how it opens into a certain place. There's some other option settings. This one's new. So, hey, I'm showing this off for the first time. Ratings and requirements. You can actually set the parental controls, and you can say, is it available for all? Is it something that kids should be, watched by a parent? Is it PG-13 basically? P13 is our rating for that. So children under 13 years old, it's not recommended for them. We have a 17-year-old, kids under 17, it's not recommended for them. And also adult supervision for visitors under 18 years old. We make our strong claims on that. And also web adult means you must be 18 to view this. And you can set this, and notice it will set the rating down on the bottom of your screen. So no matter what you do, it will automatically set it on the screen where people can click that and actually view what's in the scene and what's rated. Now, if you put this building into a scene that has, let's say this building is rated mature or whatever, adult, and then all of a sudden you put it inside of a community that was rated all, it would change the rating of the community to adult. because of that one item in it. But if you check the content rating, it would tell you that the main website is one thing, and then which building is the offender in it. So you can check them and actually pull them from your scene if you want to keep the better rating, or you can modify yours, whatever you want to do. But you'll at least know and be able to track that stuff down. Okay, so you can also add additional content warnings that show up in this area when you view it. So if I come down here and I set this up for, let's say, well, all ages, whatever. You can put any additional words that you want on there. When I say save the parent control, notice it automatically updated it, and it says, okay, display window 3D store, which is the name of my particular building I'm working in. The 3D website is related web all visitors, safe for all ages. So just what you saw when you changed this, that note ends up here. Any additional content would also be appended to that. So it's a quick way for you to be able to use our content rating system and make sure that it's safe for kids or whatever else. This required plugins, it's a work in progress, but you're seeing my dev system. So that's a work in progress. I'll be setting it up where you can tell me what plugins are required on your site. So if an admin loads up the server and puts your building in there, it'll know what other plugins they need to make your building run properly. Okay, so that's a little piece I'm working on to expand it. Okay, so we have the content rating, and I showed you how we can do that. The next thing is we've set the starting position. We've got our building information. The next piece is building snapshot. This is cool. Notice that was what we started with. We now have this. A trick to doing this is move your avatar out of the way, or better yet, move your avatar where he is going to activate whatever zones you want. So if you have something like up here where it didn't load until you're close, move him wherever he needs to be to make sure everything's activated. Then separate your avatar from your camera. Now you can come outside with everything loaded that you wanted to be loaded, go to whatever distance you need it to be, and now you can come in here and create your ideal snapshot. Move it to whatever angle you want. I kind of want to go a little bit off to the side so you really see the 3D fill. Keep in mind this little thing down on the bottom here for animations is the center of your screen. So if you keep that kind of in mind, you can make this look pretty close and pretty about right where you want it. And then once you have that in place, you can set your default snapshot. Click the button and see how that one said loading image? That's what I need to do with those file uploads. I need to do the same thing. Okay, so yes, I'll catch up with you, Eva, here. Custom avatars is coming along, and it's actually doing really well. I'll be doing a separate stream on that on a different day when it's done. I figure that'll be soon, so just keep in mind that's coming. We're going to have some really cool stuff with that. Okay, and if you don't like the snapshot that it created, for example, I don't want to show my avatar in there and he's got a bright color on him, so I can actually switch back to my avatar. I can move him farther into the back of the room so that I'm not seeing him from the front. Come out here and I can do it again. And I want to make sure people can see. There's two things I want to show, that it's 3D and what the side kind of looks like, but I also want to show that it has two entrances. So let me see if I can catch the fact that it has two entrances just by making it just about right here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Default snapshot, set it again, and it'll take it again and replace the current one. Notice when you do this on a building or on a community, if you browse the page that brings up just that building or just that community, this picture that you're taking is the one that gets shown when somebody previews the link. So that means if you go to share this link to this website or this building on Facebook, this is the image they would see as the preview of where you're telling them to go. So this image is very, very important. Okay, done. And the final part in there is options and settings. We have share 3D building, which allows you to tell it what it is by name, put a description on here, set the tags of different things, features of the building, such as dual entrances, 2 doors, big bay window, big display window in the front of the store, columns. You can say it's a brick building. You can say it's a wood highlights or wood, ceiling tiles, whatever you want to say. You can talk about your building and give it the different tags and the description. These two fields, along with the name, are what they use when they search for your particular building. Notice you can also update the default snapshot here. So if it doesn't look right, you can still update it one more time here. And then when you click share, it actually shares it out to our servers. We get a glance of approval before we approve them, but then when we share it, when we approve it, it will be available and everybody can download them. So I just want to let you know that is in place and that does work. Other than that, that takes you through those pieces. There's another thing. If you have the 3D Store plugin turned on, which if you go to plugins, this next section that I'm going to talk about is going to be specifically about the plugins, about setting this up now to be a 3D store. So first of all, this only works if you have the WalkTheWeb 3D shopping expansion turned on. That plugin does download to you by default, but you have to make sure it's activated for this section to work. The first thing is it adds a menu option here, and you can list your stores. These are it needs to be we've got a WalkTheWeb plugin. I'm updating it right now. It'll be out there. The new update will be out there soon where you can run it from your own site. So bear with me. We're going to get it to you extremely soon. But what happens is you set up the store name and you tell it, this is my WordPress WooCommerce store. Then basically it gives you a key value and it a secret and a key from WooCommerce, and it gives the store one from our system, and they trade off these things so that they can access data back and forth between each other. Okay, once it's done that, then you're able to, once it's added as a store, which notice if I say add new, you just have a few handful of things. We want to know where your store URL is, your cart page, your product page, the API if it's made any changes. We'll give you the default ones, make it easy for you to do that, but that's just some of the stuff that's related to that. Okay, once you have the store set up, then when you're working in your 3D building, options and settings, you get this 3D store settings here. This is the one, 3D store settings. You can tell it, I want to be able to get my products from my 3D store, and you set it. Once you've saved that, now it opens the connection to it and it tests it out, and it already knows I can use anything from there when I'm working in my store. Now the reason I showed you that is if I go back to my avatar now and I'm going to edit my store again, one of the things you have is you have 3D store objects that turn on with that plugin. If I come in here, for example, I'm not going to do all of them right now, but I'm going to show you the basics of adding them. So first thing I want to do, add 3D store object, and you have a bunch of different options. The first one that I want to show you is a product display. When you add a product display, it's a little farther away from me, so let's bring it closer. And see, you get a product display. By default, this one's showing you the rounded box two sides. So this one has two sides. We only need the one-sided product display. Yeah, it's facing the wrong direction. That's another little adjustment I'll do later on, but I can rotate the Y direction 180 degrees, and that'll put it back in our direction. See, it doesn't have to have showing on both sides since it's basically just working on my side when I'm up against a wall. You can scale these. Notice it's a 5 by 5 by 5 right now. You can scale it and make it bigger. You can set them any size you want. And when you create these things, you can make them, skinny and tall or wide and thin or whatever. Now, this is going to pick up one of the products from the store every time you load it. So what we'll do is I'm going to make sure that we're not in the wall. I want to make sure that we're not sticking out the back side of the wall. Nope, we're not. That's a good sign. And let's see if we're right up against the wall. Nope, we're not yet. Let me get a little further forward. Notice some of these design lines and stuff, they try to help you guide it so you can get it lined up and everything. That's why we have these blue, red, and green lines. It helps you try to find the different things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that back a little farther and put it right against the wall. See, that's in the wall. So now I can come back this way just a little bit. and get it where it's just clear of the wall, right there. I'll put it where it's mounted on the wall. Okay, now that I've done that, I can come in here. Like I said, we were just kind of deciding how big to make it, where to place it. If you want it on the ground, you can do that. If you want it a little higher, you can do it. Wherever it feels great for somebody with an avatar. So from this avatar view, it looks on the scene. Now, if you have a product for display, you can put this great big thing up here, whatever you want to do. You can scale it, anything you want here. The other thing you can set on these, which is kind of nice, is you can set a particular product. When we refresh this scene, since we just set the thing, you'll be able to actually get a list of your categories and your products, and you can actually pick a certain one so that it always shows that particular product. So you can lock them into a product. And you also get this checkbox that says, if somebody searches for an item or clicks on a category button, do you want this to be one of the displays that automatically update? If you leave this checked, then it'll automatically replace it with whatever thing you do. Maybe we can collaborate. Yes, of course we can collaborate. I always welcome that. Eva, you know that. Okay, so now one of the things is I can set the colors of this particular box. For example, here, I can come in here and say, okay, I want this to be more of a red or more of a blue color. Let me see, I'm going to set the diffuse color. I believe that one does the biggest changes. Notice right now it's texturing the color of the box in front of it. Believe me, it becomes the actual texture around this in a second. That's just something I've got to still work on. That's why the whole 3D stores thing isn't released yet. There's little bit of things I still have to do. But notice I can pick the colors and I can make it any color I want. I can also do the emissive and specular colors for like when the light hits it and stuff. So once I've decided all that, one other thing is in the advanced options, we still have the ability to say normal, load when near, or you can tell it to load when you're far, or whatever you want to do. So that was the load zone thing that I showed you earlier. Okay, and we don't need to worry about reflecting on water or shadows on the surface. That stuff's a different story. That's a different thing. Since we did this all in Blender, it's already been handled. You don't have to worry about those particular items. If you're next to water and you want to make sure that this object does cast a reflection in the water, then you can turn that on and it will work. Okay, these are some slight adjustments. You can even have opacity settings, which these don't have. You can also set a sound if you want, so that as you walk closer to it, it has a certain sound, and it doesn't when you walk away. Okay, and I'm going to say save product. Notice how that little box didn't disappear. That's the stuff I'm working on, so don't worry. This will be perfected by the time I release the 3D Stores module. But now when I refresh the page, first of all, I want you to notice two things about it. One is, because I picked a store, it automatically put a product in the case. So now, by default, it automatically loaded one of the items that I have for sale. Now, I'm going to change something here. I picked the wrong building, or the wrong, options and settings. Options and settings and 3D store settings. It's not the WalkTheWeb.com one. I need it to be this one, because this one has, I don't know if I customized the name or not, but we're going to find out if this one loads it. This one has the whole sample products, so I just want to make sure. Yeah, this is the one I want. Okay. Got to grab the right store. This is my demo store, so I want to make sure it has the demo products in it when we do it. Okay, so from here, we have a couple simple things we can do. One of them is, hey, you want to add some more product displays? You can, for example, I put the blue on the side and you want to match it. All you have to do is right click it, come down here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to copy that distance from the wall so I know when it's to get it on that same distance. If I come down here and say create a duplicate item, it now creates another box and it has all the same properties except for the X and Z position. So now I can set that. And instead of this, I'm going to say, oh, give me another one at here. And I can say, save that product. And it'll have all the rest of the settings the same. So this makes it easy to place new products on the wall. You can say create duplicate. And I'm going to go with that same distance from the wall. And this one, instead of 18 on that side, I'm going to do a negative 18 so that they have them on both sides. Oops. Okay, and I'm going to save that one. So you can see how easy it is to add duplicates. And by the way, when I refresh this, just letting you know. Oh, you told your friend about me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I always appreciate that. Anybody that passes the word. So definitely, thank you very much. That's awesome. Oh, and thanks for following, Eva. I appreciate that. We'll get you... I got to remember how to add somebody as a mod. Let's see. Let me just glance real quick. I just forgot the command. Okay. It's as simple as I thought it was. There you go. You're all set. And notice that when I walk into this building, okay, notice when I walk in here, all three of them have products. And if you click on read more, it opens in a window and it'll automatically show you the product that you did. You can add it to your cart here. You can, you're actually looking at the website. So you can put things in your cart. You can look at the descriptions. You can read anything that you had there about them. You can close that off. If you click add to cart here, it automatically puts it in the cart for you. Hey, you're welcome, Eva. I appreciate the loyalty. You're always here, and I appreciate that. Okay, so Polo's been added to the cart, and look, it's already here in the cart. So, makes 3D shopping easy. Not to mention, when somebody buys something from your 3D store, they bought it on your WooCommerce website, which means it works the exact same process that you did for the other stuff. All you had to do is drop some things in here. People still buy things on your two-dimensional website. They're not buying them from my site. They are displaying them and seeing them and making them available to them from my site. That's what we're doing. We're advertising your other website right in a 3D game. So cool stuff, cool stuff. And they can completely do the checkout and everything else. Now there's another piece besides these displays, and that is we can actually create, well, we're going to do two things. One of them is over here, I'm going to put a display case. So edit the building and 3D store object, and it is a store categories. Now this one, we want to make sure it's in the room. That helps. Okay. And I'm going to rotate that. My rotations on these objects are all out of whack, so I'll get that all straightened out. But this particular one, I want this to be kind of prominent. The first thing, I'm going to rotate it so that it's there. We're going to raise it up so that it shows everything as it can above the ground. And finally, let me make sure it's somewhat near the wall. It doesn't have to be, by the way. This can be a standalone. In fact, you know what? I'm going to make this just because I can. I'm going to set it in the room instead of quite so up against the wall. I'm going to make it, I don't want to block your vision when you first walk in, but I do want it to, oops, I keep going back and forth. I'm going to go this way a bit. I'm going to make it the center of the room. I want you to be able to walk over to it, change things, and watch it happen. So everybody can do what they want. See, I can keep on holding that button down, or I can type in what I want it to be, 90 degrees. Also, I can set it right on the ground if I choose. There we go. And now I have this new thing sitting here. We can also set colors on this. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to make it red. And I also like doing the ambient color because that helps the... See, this one changed colors. I already have this one changing colors when you set it, so that makes it nice. But I'm going to set that here, not too dark. And this one, I don't need it to be fully there. There we go. I like seeing the contrast between the different angles of it. So by doing the diffuse color, you can catch a bit of that. The emissive color, this is if you want this thing to glow in the dark. So I tend to give it a little bit of emissive color just so that if there's any problem, like you're in a dark room, it will the words all show up well anyway. So you really don't have to worry about that too much, but I do like setting it. And specular is if a sunspot hit it, which way is it going to glow, what color and stuff. Show options, this is on the normal, by the way, just like we did some of the other things. And you can still scale this. It doesn't have to be that wide, doesn't have to be this big. You can change the scale on it if you want. You can adjust with these numbers and make it any size you want it to be. And finally, save category box, and now we have the category box there. The cool thing about the category box is when you click on the various items on it, it automatically changes all your products to match whatever you pick. So if I said polo shirts, it's going to automatically update everything to polo shirts. If you said, I think there's more hoodies. Let's go with hoodies. Does Babylon use Discord? No. Actually, I've created everything in WalkTheWeb to be independent, even though I've made things on the back end, my servers that automatically record things to Discord, but technically WalkTheWeb, the distributed version, and Babylon itself do not use Discord. So anything that uses Discord would be something that we've input into it. So this categories box allows you to quickly and easily change all the items on your products and look at through the various categories. Now these items, just so you've seen it, let me go to this website is the www site that we're pulling these from. So notice these are the products, and also if I take over here, if I go to the website and I say, oh, add this item to the cart, okay, it's been added to the cart. If you go to the site here and check the cart, oh, it's empty. That was working. I'll double check. Am I on the same site? I've got more than one site, I'm sorry, if I didn't do it right. But yeah, we'll double check that because it should automatically use the same stuff. If they created it as two different instances, I may do something to make sure it's the same one, but we'll see. We'll see if I can do that or not. But yeah, but it is this store. We are working from the same place. We are getting the same stuff. In fact, sample store, notice you're getting all the same stuff. You get the same items. You can actually go to the home page. You can do anything that you do on the regular site. You can actually do it within this window. I'm starting to think that this is two different sites, unless the welcome page looks like it. Oh, it does. Okay. Okay, just saying. Shop. Okay, we'll start with the shop page. But yeah. Okay, so it is the same website. You are shopping from that website, and you get all the same products that are there. Whatever categories are set up on this site are the categories that you get. Like I said, this is just my sample site. I'm just going to click login. And I want to show you that in products categories, whatever you put in here, these categories, that's what's going to show up on this list. And it only puts the ones on the list if there's at least one item in the category. I didn't have it load empty categories. Okay, and if you click all, it's a random spot of whatever it gets first. So you'll get whatever products on this store. Okay, with that shown and said, the last thing I want to do is I'm going to show you how we can create kind of a cool display in the front here. It's something that I felt like I wanted to do with this particular store since we have such a big display window in the front. I'm going to show you how we can do something really cool. First of all, we are going to add a web object. Oh no, yes. I'm going to add a web object, Babylon file, and this particular round display case that I designed, I actually designed this for this particular room, and I'm going to keep it at 0. We're going to back that up to 48, 47. I want to make sure I give a little bit of room on all sides. Let me go. Let me see how big I want it first. I want to make it a little bit larger. 2 would be way too big, I think. Well, we don't need it too high, that's for sure. But 2 by 2 kind of fills that area pretty cool. I'm kind of liking that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that 48 and 0. I'm going to double check and just make sure by not dragging my avatar over here, I can make sure that, okay, I've given it a little bit of room so that it's not completely on that wall. I could move it back a little farther, and the concept behind that would be, do we want to allow or not an avatar to actually walk through here? Well, actually, it kind of makes it, almost makes it. So I'm going to make this just a little bit less. I'm going to make it 90. 1.9. Okay, so now it's big enough that I can actually walk around it and see both sides of this as it goes. That's kind of cool. And I'm going to set this to show up. Oops, show the things. I'm going to make this be high because when we are walking down the street, I want this to show outside before somebody even loads what's inside the building. So I'm going to set this to high. This is kind of a cool feature that we have in here. So now we have that object and we have it there. I'm going to take in that same position, notice that it was 46 and 0. Okay, I'm going to add a 3D store object. I haven't tried this, by the way. So I'm kind of winging this on the spot. We're going to go 47, we're going to go 0, and I'm going to raise that up higher, and I'm going to make this bigger. So 1, 2, let's see. That's looking pretty good so far. Let me lower it down so we can see how big it really is. That's not too bad. Let's go even bigger. I want the big display, so I'm purposely setting this some pretty good size here. Okay, I want that to be there, and it doesn't have to rotate. It can be at 0 because that doesn't matter. It doesn't have to rotate. It's there. It's a two-sided display. That's important. And I'm going to make it, let's make it kind of a yellow. Let's get some yellow out here. The reason I want to go bright is I want to be able to see it from the outside, and I want it to really notice that it's trying to show itself. So we are going to, and missive color, we're going to make sure this thing is like almost glow in the dark, really good amount of yellow. I think we can back that one off just a little bit on the back sides of things. Okay, now I've created that, and the last part is I want to make sure that we set that also in the high zone so we can see that from outside when we're walking by, and I'm going to save that product. Now, just to test that, we'll test this before we do anything else, so I'm going to reload the page. And notice how this is right here. See, we can see the categories back here. That's kind of why I did it that way. I wanted to make sure you could see that you can change categories. You know, I could even go bigger because of the layout. I can even go bigger than that. I wanted to make sure that it didn't, like this edge, you could still see the words, but I can go bigger. Okay, go big or go home, right? Okay, so I'm going to make that even larger. Let's go. Okay, we're using this whole table, which is good. So let's see what that looks like from the outside. There we go. Now it looks like it belongs, it's covering the whole window. That's pretty cool. And now for the very piece that I wanted to show you, this is cool, but watch this one. We have an action zone. I haven't used this in a while, so it's going to be egg in my face if it doesn't work, but I have a rotate object. And what this does is, let me get display rotate, rotation speed 1, that's all fine. Axis position, we're going to make that 46 like the background. We'll make it 2 so that it's centered. Position 3, that doesn't matter since we're rotating on the one axis there. Okay, pick shape to add. We're going to click that, and we're going to click on this bottom piece. Okay, don't worry about the position or the fact that it disappeared. Okay, don't worry about it just yet. We're not panicking yet. That just means that there's adjustment when you first add it. But let me find out if, when I load this, if it loads it properly. If it does, it's pretty cool. It disappeared. Where is it? Oh, come on. Show me it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? It should have been able to load that. I don't know why it didn't. Okay, I'm going to fix that one. I'm going to have to come back and fix it. I'm just kind of curious if it's... Okay, I don't see it. Sometimes the positioning of these things don't end up where you think they would be. So I'm just glancing to see if it showed up in the scene, but someplace else. Okay, I'm going to fix this one. Don't worry. For now, I'm going to remove it from the scene. That will be, the next time you see me, that piece will be fixed. But I am going to have that piece working in there because I do want this one to spin in the front window. So I'll take a look at that in the coding side of things, but you get the gist about creating buildings and everything else. I know, sitting here trying to do something on screen that I haven't tested. I should know better. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say rotate zone display. See, it shows it there. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to track down because it still shows both those parts and everything in place. But I'm going to say delete the zone. It put the pieces back in place. And I'm going to say done editing. Okay, so you can add a whole bunch more product displays inside of this building and everything. And you can make it a full-on store. And then if you share it, other people can download it and use it. If not, I want to show you that all you have to do is you can go into a community. For example, let's go to... I don't know which one I want to use. City streets. Let's do it in here. I don't think I put it in this scene yet. Actually, this is a new building, so it has nothing to do with the other building that we had already created. So since we have a new building, we can put them in here. And now it's loading city streets. I want to remind you, I left open Blender. I have multiple windows open with this stuff. I'm streaming at the same time. I left my remote desktop open to the servers. I'm running about 7 or 8 other programs at the same time. So, and my computer's still handling this just fine. So I'm actually pleased that everything's working. Okay, so this one, this is just a little sample street. This isn't the full big blown version I've created. Or is it? Nope, there it goes. It's loading as I walk this way. Okay, what I'm going to do, we got a Webby store here, I forgot. Okay, we're going to go across the street since that part was already taken. But I'm going to run over here real quick. And from over here, it was trying to load something that I already removed, just so you know. That's just a catch. Okay, so edit this 3D community, add 3D building. Come in here and find my, what did I call it? Does anybody remember? It wasn't storefront, but window display was the old one. I want to see, actually, was that it? I think it was that one. Okay, so then when I click it, here's our new building. And I'm dropping it in the scene. It's that easy to add. And I can move it back from the street just a touch to get it to just the right spot to load it. So it kind of matches up with the edge of the sidewalk. You can move it farther forward so that actually, see that one I made the patio go there. So I'm going to move it all the way. Let me just get myself over here where I can see it. I want to move it to where the building starts on the edge of the sidewalk so that the display covers part of the sidewalk. So I'm going to just click this until it's up here. And now it's pretty close lined up. I could line it up perfectly right there. Now it's on the edge of the sidewalk for the front edge of the building. And notice when you're walking around here, now the display really stands out on the sidewalk. Just like their porches can kind of overlap to this area. This one overlaps to about the same distance, actually, not too bad. So I kind of like where that's at. Is this our version or not? Let me find out. Nope, this isn't the right one. Okay, we're going to try that again. Sorry about that, but okay, we did learn that it is a negative 226. I'm going to save that setting. But this version doesn't have the doors opening up. No, it is the latest version. No, it is not. It doesn't have all the stuff inside it. So I already know that's not the one. Deleted from the community. And let me move over a little bit here. Get it somewhere there. Add 3D building. Okay. Did anybody note what I called it? Street. Display window 3D store. That's it. Now we got the right one. Here's our display window with a display in it. Who'd have thought? I'm going to move it to the same spot that we had the other one. Notice it's consistent because it was the same design building. And it's loading up. And we have the building in here. And it's fully loaded. And we can show advanced options. We leave these by default because then it uses the building thing. I just wanted to show you. It has a load zone. If I wanted to overwrite all those load zones I created and tell it to just load in a zone in the community, that's when you would change this. But by leaving it as default, it's only using the building original load zones. I just want to point that out so you don't make changes to that shouldn't be there. Okay, so notice that it didn't load the store products. That's part of me working on that store thing right now. I didn't want to have additional things happening while you're placing the building just for overhead, but when you save it, I should have it automatically load the store products. But right now I don't have it triggering that yet, so I'm just going to reload the scene. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and face this direction so we can see the cart. We can see this place next to it, open it up. There it is. There's our building. I want to do some stuff that when buildings finish loading that they fade in instead of just popping in like this. So I'm going to work on some stuff like that later on. But for now, the fact that the building loaded and it's all working and it's in good shape, I'm kind of happy with that. Now my avatar's still loading the animations. I haven't loaded my latest stuff from the animations over to here yet, by the way. So for my avatars. So when that happens, that's going to change a few things too. But if I come up over here, notice I can walk up and... Okay, where's my door? Oh, the door's there. There it is. Okay, I just got to let it finish loading. This is a pretty big scene, and I haven't maximized it so that it doesn't overlap and do too much stuff at once. But we do have the scene. Yay, it's all loading. Everything's correct. And notice it's showing some hoodies right now. Let's switch to... let's go to hats. And there they are. The hats showed up. So, yes, everything's working. That's all there. This is all there. So the last thing I would do is, like I said, I'm going to make that rotation work. I want to be able to rotate the front display. I think it's a cool way to do it, to be able to have, that display sitting there spinning slowly in the front window. That would be really cool. So I'll get it going. I'll figure out why it didn't load. I already have some suspected ideas of where it went, but I'll figure it out. Okay, so that's that. We have a building, we have the displays. I've shown you how to put in the product displays, the category tables, the set the colors on all those things. You've got doors that open on this building. You have different load zones. So we loaded the inside of the building separate than from the outside, which, by the way, when you get in a scene like this, and if you can walk over here and notice that the store products already disappeared off the shelf and that top load zone unloaded, that's just a little bit less stuff that has to be shown from the outside. yet we can still see the product display on the outside until we walk to right there. Now we got a building and there's no use showing a product display because it's too far away to see. But as soon as I start walking closer, I am heading in that direction and the product display shows up so that by the time we get over there, it's ready to load and we can walk over there and actually see what it's doing and showing off. So that's the whole concept between WalkTheWeb. And if there's no questions, I'd say that's a wrap on putting your 3D building from Blender all the way to WalkTheWeb and having it in place. So, gave myself a clap. 7-part series complete. I want to thank you all for joining me today and thank you for walking through the series. We have some really cool stuff here and we'll keep adding to it. We'll keep adding new features, new functionality, and completely keep adding to it and making it run smoother, making it run load faster, making it decide when to load certain things and how far away and blah, 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 all the stuff. But notice there's animation, there's live content, we're working on some new custom avatars. We got all kinds of cool stuff in the works and being released daily. And speaking of which, Dashboard. If you go to Dashboard, you will always see my latest video here and updates. You can find out as we go. This will show you the things that we've completed. So as we finish this stuff, I post something. It shows up in Discord as a post. So subscribe to Discord and you'll see them there too. But you can also get this whole list showing you everything that's coming out in the next release. And you can see previous releases, what we did each and every month since we went open source. So yes, these are every month since we went open source. We're putting out different updates all the time. So if you have any requests or anything like that, hit us up in Discord and we'll make sure that we cover the things that you need to create your gaming websites, your 3D shopping stores for your customers, for your businesses that but definitely we're creating a community and a different way of doing things. This is 3D Internet, 3D Internet cities. We're creating them. So enjoy and browse them and tell your friends. But I want to thank you all for joining me today. It's been a pleasure and have a great day.